Wilson Morales from Black Women TV talking to Mark Tallman regarding his role in the Apple TV Plus series, Your Friends and Neighbors. How's it going, Mark?
It's going well, William. It's a pleasure to see you, man. And before we even start, um, thank you so much. It's an honor to be speaking with you, especially with what you do for us as a culture, with championing Black artists. I really appreciate what you do and um, your passion for uh, putting us at the forefront of what's happening in our industry. So I appreciate you, man.
Hey, appreciate it. Just want to make sure you're being seen. That people know that, hey, he's the Othello in the show.
Word up. Yeah, yeah.
But here you are, you're playing this role of Nick, basketball player, home wrecker.
Yeah, yeah.
Here's the thing. We're already at the close of season one. Nick is still around. What makes Nick who he is in terms of being in a relationship who with a married woman and got her to divorce the guy, and now he's with her, and he's kind of like this happy-go-lucky guy.
Yeah. Well, first of all, you make the joke about him being a homewrecker, but I think part of the reason he's a character that you would assume people wouldn't love as much as they do is because I don't think he necessarily wrecked the home. I think the home was wrecked before he ever stepped into it. Um, but it's easy looking from the outside in to say that he's a home wrecker, especially being that it's with one of his best friends' wife. It makes it look that much worse. But even if you look at the general reaction online to what audience members are seeing and how they view him, there's a lot of people who love Nick. I'm even surprised myself, I'm
Because he
like,
hasn't done anything wrong. The writers have given you the right words.
yes.
He,
And I
we're
think
looking
that's a
for the
part
shoe
of
to drop. Nobody's that good of a guy.
it. Yeah.
Nobody's that good
And
of a guy.
you know what? I like to hope that there is this sense of charisma and magnetism that I bring from myself to the role because we all play as actors, we play all these different roles with everything we step into. But even Denzel, who's one of the best actors of our time, you see a little Denzel in every character he plays. So there's part of that too, where I like to hope that whatever I'm bringing in the spirit of myself is allowing for folks to gravitate towards this character, even knowing that he did something that wasn't so great. But the journey of playing Nick has been really fun for me because it's a different challenge from challenges I've had in the past because um, it's forced me to be that much more vulnerable because you have the choice in every role you play. You can say, okay, I'm gonna grab this role like by the horn, so to speak, and make what I want to make of it, or you can kind of surrender to what the character is. And my choice in this has been to surrender to it because I think it's always more interesting to watch when someone's vulnerable. Like me as Mark Tallman, the some of the stuff that Coop says to Nick or the things that Mel says to Nick or you know different characters throughout the series I would react a different way. You know,
But
like
that's what
I'd
I'm
be like,
saying. Like you yourself said, you know, Nick and Coop were best friends, and there's a
yeah,
code among guys. You say
sure.
you know it, no matter how bad the situation is. So it's like I want that flashback episode where it's like, okay, how did Nick get with Mel? What led to this?
Sure.
How
You
bad
and
were
me
things
both.
off that he'd have to say if it was some stranger that can go anywhere, but that's his
Hmm.
boy.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
say
It's his
and
homie, man. Like
that's his hobby. So you have
what
to
really
say,
happened?
how do you relate to Nick?
Well, I relate to Nick not in that not in that way, not with taking my best friend's wife, but I think being a former athlete and being forced to put on a brave face, um, even in the midst of tough times or having done something wrong or in sports you lose a big match or you get injured and you still have to put on a smile and do the press conference right after losing a big game and how devastated you feel as a human being, but you still have to, perform, so to speak, for the media. And I think the same thing is happening with Nick, where he doesn't feel good about what he did. And I think he shows that in his personality, which again, I think adds to why folks are still forgiving of him and, don't hate him as much as you would assume people would. Um, but that's the vulnerable side I'm talking about. When I say just naturally as a human being, I'd want to confront people who are, you know, pushing me away or putting all the blame on me for something that is clearly bigger than just me sleeping with his ex-wife. There's a lot of deeper issues I think that exist to cause her to also even think of doing such a thing. Um, so to me, the more vulnerable and more interesting thing is submitting to that and not being confrontational and just receiving it and still being the person that he always was to Coop as a best friend and continuing to be that person instead of letting perhaps one relationship he's ruined bleed out into ruining other relationships that he's developed with people in the neighborhood.
Hmm.
So um, that's how I relate to Nick. And me being an athlete before acting, I naturally relate to Nick in terms of my experience physically and emotionally. Winning games and being celebrated and losing games and having to pick myself back up. Um, and all the things you learn in being an athlete and learning to be ambitious and having a great work ethic. I think that has inspired Nick to do as well as he's done as a businessman and entrepreneur post his playing days. So there are a lot of things I relate to with Nick, and several things I have to dig into other parts of my life to relate to in terms of the thing he did relationship wise. So
As you're going into season two, from what you've
uh,
done in season one, how much have you learned working? And I always say actors can never stop learning, whether it's working with actors or
absolutely.
producers. How much have you learned working opposite Amanda and John that going into season two that may help you out? Sometimes maybe there's something you picked up from either them or your directing team that that what are we getting from your skills as an actor, or what are we getting from the character coming into season two?
Well, and this is touching back on what you asked about how I relate to Nick. Having been an athlete, I'm ultra prepared. I'm never going to be the guy who shows up who doesn't know his lines, doesn't know the dialogue, or even when we're block rehearsing scenes, I'll take notes on my sides that I'll stick in my pocket so that I'm really prepared for game time, so to speak. So I already had that going into it, and I've experienced work in some cases with actors who don't take that approach, and maybe it's a more artistic approach for them. But for me, it's been really, really inspiring and gratifying to work with them because they are ultra prepared. Jon Hamm has an incredible leadership quality about him, but it's not demonstrative. It's not one of those leadership um, he's not one of those leaders who walks into a room and he's like, you do this, you do that. He's cool as a cucumber, but he leads by example. And that's something I've really taken note of because, you know, most actors, you continue to climb the call sheet, so to speak, throughout your career. And seeing him do what he's doing, especially wearing multiple hats as an actor and an executive producer, um, it's nice to know, okay, I can take notes from this style of leadership because I'm a former team captain. I was one of the team captains when I played college ball. So there's a certain way you lead a football team, which might be quite different from leading a group of artists. And that's one thing I've learned from Jon Hamm. And then Olivia um, has been really, really fun to learn from because she there's this different type of comedic quality she has to her work that I haven't experienced. I've worked with a lot of comedic actors, but hers is like this cuts you down dry style of comedy that's been really, really cool. And I'm picking up techniques from her in that way. And then Amanda Peet, oh my gosh, the chops on that woman as an actor, she is just so sat into her character the moment the camera starts rolling. It's been beautiful to work off of. And for me, she's been a huge reminder of what every actor knows, but it's easy to forget that listening to your partner is the greatest tool you can have. Because you see her in certain scenes. I've seen her respond to someone who actually says a line wrong, but she responds to what they said in the correct way, as opposed to just saying her line because she knows her line. And I'm like, that's a beautiful thing to witness, where an actor is so locked in and so in tune and in touch with their acting partner that they're listening well enough to still engage with and respond to them, even if they don't necessarily say the correct line that would be the cue for their line. Um, it's just a great group of actors to work with. I'm thrilled, man. I'm grateful, pinching myself every day, especially now that we're filming season two, which by the way is really, really exciting. I'm not gonna say anything about it,
That's the pro
but
in you. That's the pro.
but I can tell you the I tell everyone who asks that it's interesting the difference between film and TV. You know, a part two of a film is almost never as good as part one, whereas in television, the second season and third season, or however long it continues to go, usually gets better and better. And I think it's because the writers get more comfortable as a writer's room. The writers learn to write for the actors they have in a better way. The actors become more and more comfortable with their characters and with each other as a team. So it already feels like season two is going to be that much better than season one. And what I can say, it's public news now. Uh, we've added James Marsden as an additional series regular, and man, his character is so juicy. And Nick and his character Owen Ash have some stuff that they get involved with together as well. But that's where it ends. I can't tell you anything
And
else.
that's how
But
we can end right there. We won't say
yeah,
more. James is
yeah,
obviously coming off of Paradise. We know he's going
yeah.
to bring to the table. So like, let's see where
With my
Nick
guy
goes.
Sterling K. Brown, who
Sterling
so
K. Brown,
Sterling's wife, Ryan Michelle Bethay, we were husband and wife on the last project I started in. We first wives.
small world, isn't that?
So small world. Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
small world. Like, I just worked with so and so who worked with so and so.
yeah,
6 degrees. Hey, we're looking forward to see what you do in season two. As you say, let's see the writers give out more to Nick to see a little bit of his background, see if he sticks in it
I
for the
would love
long
that.
haul. We'll talk again. Go hang out, do what you got to do. Take care.
William, I appreciate you, man.
All right. Bye.
All right, thank you.